Did research.
Is it Sri? Okay. And then how do you guys know each other?
We're family.
Oh, is it?
We're actually cousins. He's a famous photographer, content creator.
Oh, is it?
And so on. So I thought, no
that's
man,
dope,
come and see these things, man.
And then you can even say if it's rubbish or it's nice.
Yeah, and and he's a critical commentator.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you know. So I prefer such.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's proper.
Especially these young stars, they'll teach you.
Hey, Chief General. And they'll deal with you.
They'll school you.
Because it's scary because I think we're getting to the stage where we're losing touch of what is youthful.
Of course, and it's by virtue of our age.
Ne?
Remember, we've just graduated from that segment.
Oh. I like how you say segment.
General.
Yeah.
And it's a trick because if you miss it now, you miss that connection. And you begin to, especially the way my 2000 have been labeled, you know. There's a lot that generation has to offer. The same way we offered to our seniors in the past. So sometimes in the social spaces, that's where you find this description of my 2000 as a bunch of unruly kids, you know, and then that buzz, that ability to be teachable and learn from them, and then you can't bridge a generational gap.
No, you can't.
And you find that what is being said about them is the same thing that was being said about us, about those who were before us.
Yeah. Because, for me personally, I used to DJ. So I DJ still once in a while.
Sure.
Yeah. So I remember I once put up a post. This was like 2-3 years ago. And I was like, hip-hop is rubbish now. Because you hear these hang. It's like these people are perpetually on drugs.
Sure.
They're not making sense.
Sure.
And when I posted that, I remember old DJ Frankie. I don't know if you know DJ Frankie.
Yeah.
He commented and he said, "You sounding like those old guys who hated the you guys when you came into the scene."
It's the same thing. And funny enough, it's something that I was thinking about as I was driving here. And how we always feel things are new, you know. And from a Christian perspective, I think it's an author called Ecclesiastes in the Bible, where he speaks about nothing under the sun is new.
Damn. Yeah.
Nothing under the sun is new.
You're right.
And when you look at that, you look around, you compare ideologies, ideas, and even social happenings. You realize that, no, man, these are the same things that have been happening, but this is evolution. You know, things just go with time and age and so on. We are also going to be those parents where our kids will shock us. You know?
That's true.
We at some point were told things like, hey, kids of today. Well, at some point in life, we will say that to others as well. And say, hey, but these kids of today, man, there's no order.
We're already saying it.
We're already saying it, yes. And we were still new at saying it, and it still feels a bit more uncomfortable. Given another 10 years, we're full-blown those people that those Grotmans.
That's wild.
Yes, and now we are there. Now we are thinking, hey, man, are these kids? And these are people who are 5-10 years behind us. I've got a younger brother who is 10 years my junior. I look at this comrade and the things that he does, his way of speaking, even his relationship to my parents.
They talk anyhow.
And they get away with it.
And
then you wonder how. I was even joking about it the other day to telling my younger brother to say, hey, but you found this woman very soft now. You would not have gotten away with that arrangement of talking on a normal day.
Yeah, you'll be dealt with severely.
And be warned of serious ill discipline.
Proper.
And be asked to say, what kind of a human being are you going to become in the future talking like that?
That's all right.
So if you talk like that here, how are you talking out there?
Okay, let's start the show.
Sure.
Okay, let me rhyme.
The O in R stands for music orgasm.
Okay, all right. Welcome to OzOK Podcast, and this is episode 5. And today is Black Child, You Are On Your Own. Let me cook. So, I used to live in Alexandra, Gomora. And this was up until I was 10 years old. And it's a township. And, the reality is that in that setting, you think about social capital and what is social capital, the networks that one could provide and connect with. But the truth of the matter is that when you're in a township, there's very little networks that you can establish. There is not much to talk about regarding social capital, but what's paradoxical is that you've got a lot of these rich, successful entrepreneurs who all have had a stint in a township, one way or the other. But hardly do you ever hear a situation whereby you find that particular individual or group of individuals going back to the townships to bring back the very same people that they used to play with, the same people that they used to study with. So you hardly hear that. I then, after 10, moved to Switzerland by the grace of God. And so we stayed in Geneva. And, one could say that by the time I came back, around my 17 years or so, back to South Africa Centurion, I should have established major connections. But the truth of the matter is I was young and I didn't have that foresight of entrepreneurship neither. But, there's not much to really talk about because at that point in time, our priorities were slightly different. And I then subsequently went to Christian Brothers College in Pretoria. I then went to Wits University. And I say all of this to say that I still have connections and links to several individuals that have made it in life. But the truth of the matter is, especially in the context of a black person, or a black child, is that your value is only as much as the level of contribution you bring to their lives. And that is the sad reality. So I wanted to kick off this show by just providing a young quote by our Honorable Steve Biko, who once said, "Black man, you are on your own." When questioned further, he said, "A black man should be more independent and depend on himself for his freedom and not to take it for granted that someone would lead him to it. The blacks are tired of standing at the touchlines, witness a game that they should be playing. They want to do things for themselves and all by themselves." And I think for me that was very touching, especially the end part, all by themselves. And that's the reality of a black man. So in order for me to unpack this thing, because I feel like at some point, you have these conversations with yourself all alone, trying to figure out what is it that why as blacks or the black child or the black population do we not have that tendency of saying, I want to assist wholeheartedly without having to require anything back from it? Why is it that every single thing is a struggle? All my years I had to fight. All my life I have had to fight. So in order just to explore some of the engagements and also talk to my guest, I've requested the Honorable, because this is another Honorable, Advocate, Mpilonhle Baloyi.
Sure, Mcha.
Are you good, Mcha?
Jano well, man. Yes, sir.
Did you ever think, when you were super young, that would be your title? Like, honestly, if you had to be dead honest with me.
When I was super young, it cannot be, because I think I only come to contact with this title and get to know that there's something called an advocate, maybe in mid-high school, early high school. I didn't know that there's something called an advocate. And then at some point I came across it and I said, no, I think I want to become this thing. Yeah.
So, you know, I want to kick this conversation, and I like that you said high school. You know, let's. I want to hit this conversation in 3 phases, but we're going to start with high school, and I've got a couple of quotes, so just bear with me. So the first quote is by Malcolm X, who said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." And you know, the truth of the matter is that you know, you ask yourself in high school, how much did you know about your future? How much did you know about career guidance? So for you at that point in time, just take us back to your very days in high school, and you're trying to figure yourself out as an individual, as a boy child, as a black child, as well as considering what's going to be the future for you. What was your state of mind?
I think my my state of mind at that time was of that of an average teenager, early teens. You get to high school, grade 8, you're still that baby of the school. Grade 9, you are there now. You know, grade 9s are generally have got this genetic behavior, almost everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, very rowdy. They think they own the school now, because there are those that are younger than them now in the school. And I think it was after that, grade 10 and so on, where through history lessons, because I took an interest in the study of history.
Okay.
Back then.
All right.
Then in reading there, you discover that there is such a very big world out there. And this is a self-discovery. You discover this all on your own. When the teacher is standing there giving a lesson, they are not shaping your future directly, but they are making certain statements and teaching you certain things that have an impact on you, and you begin to reconsider. And this is also the height of puberty and so on. And you begin to wonder, what type of a person am I going to become? And what type of person do I want to become? And so mid-high school, I take an interest in university because I had older cousins who had been to university. So university was a thing. After high school, you are going to university. So it was inculcated at a very young age, from a background of parents who are civil servants and who also believe in academia generally. You begin to also take an interest in reading, which opens up your mind. So with education being that main catalyst for the future, I agree completely, because it is at that point where I decided to take my books seriously, because I had heard about a place called Wits University, and that to get into that school, your marks need to be on point. So now that becomes a pushing drive to say, there are certain things that you cannot find yourself doing. You can't be playing around instead of studying, because you need these marks to get into that place. And I had the pleasure of visiting, I think I was in grade 10. There was a relative of mine who was a lecturer there. And during one of the school holidays, I had gone to visit them. And boom, I was on campus, found myself at the Matrix, Mchana. And hey, I looked at this place and I said, I want to come back to this one day. But to study what, I don't know. But it looks like a beautiful place to be at. Now, in reading history, you hear about a guy called Advocate J.G. Straydom. The Straydom, you know, one of the main role players of the apartheid regime. So that type of reading, it ignited a sense of activity, you know, and activity and activism, because you are now enlightened to say, this is where we come from as a country. You are now exposed to the injustices of the past at that age already. And if this man was an advocate and used policy and policies and the law carved these things in order to perpetuate these injustices, it means there's power in this title. It means there's power in this field of study called law. And then you take an interest. Now you are still here. The future is still there at Vets and beyond. But at that point already, you must begin to shape, carve yourself, conduct yourself in a manner that will qualify you for that which you aspire to become. So it makes a social change as well in terms of your relations, friends, and so on. Obviously, you cannot be part of that crew that is behind the toilets and misbehaving. You know, you are always now reading books, and that intellectual capacity now comes on its own, because with education, whatever you learn, your brain expands and it can never shrink back to what it was before you engaged in that. So that's my high school journey basically, and a journey of uncertainty. You know, will this work? You know, I don't know anybody in my family who has studied law, who is a successful lawyer. I don't have a springboard, you know, but this is now a personal passion that is ignited by my surroundings.
No, but Mchana, you're giving me textbook answers. There's no way. There's no way. Pala, you're giving me the answers whereby you are a model child, proper.
Mchana.
Someone who was interested in education, someone who was future oriented. I mean, that's amazing. And to be honest, you don't really get a lot of that from a lot of the black children that are there. And what I wanted to find out just over and above that, what issues did you come across? Because for me, you know, as a black child, first of all, I was reading like this article where there was this young lady who was trying to complete her studies, but she couldn't get accommodation.
Sure.
Right? They were not that privileged.
Sure.
So what she had to do was she had to squat essentially. So
Sure.
she'd go to varsity, squat at her friends once in a while. But it got so much to a point where she couldn't handle it and dropped out. Are there no struggles during high school where you personally had to overcome?
There are, definitely. Okay. And upon the issue of struggle, I think we'll unpack it.
Yeah.
And we need to make it context sensitive. And it must fit the individual. I'm not from a rich family. I'm from a family of civil servants, you know. A teacher, and the other one works for the department. A family where there's also a lot of relatives and cousins. So there's not really much, you know those of us who don't qualify for financial aid, but we don't really.
The one in the middle.
Yes, the missing middle.
I get you.
So one of those. And in high school, I have a twin sister. And the only struggle that we had to go through was when maybe there was not enough money for hostel, and we had to board outside because we were maybe an hour away from home. So we didn't stay at home. We had to board with another family, which was closer to school. Now, this is in the early teens. You miss home. You miss that home connection, and you're living with another family. And sometimes you feel like you're invading them. You don't feel comfortable, you know. And you're trying to find yourself in this whole space of life. So it was not a financial struggle. It was not a socio-economic struggle. It was more psychological, emotional, perhaps, you know, and going home in the weekends and so on, and come Sunday, you feel, oh God, I'm going back to that place that I don't really like so much. And but now, what overrides this now is this personal passion that I mentioned, which is able to allow you to surpass all these things, you know. If we speak about people who had to drop out and so on, what makes their stories successful is irrespective of those circumstances, the end goal, or it's a story with a happy ending. And the middle part, and as to how they struggled, how they moved on and navigated life. Some of these things, I really, Mchana, don't really look at them as struggles. I look at them as the journey, you know. I didn't die there, so I made it out. You know, you live in a township where you are with people who have grown up together. So you are always the odd one-ish out. So the best escape is what? It's books. You know, yes, you're always the odd one out there. Also, there's I'm Tsonga. I'm now in a Swati community. There is also this, you know, it's kids. There's also these teasings of mashangane, what. So you retract. You know.
Do you know what I feel like? I feel like you had so many challenges, but because of being a black child, you feel like that has been normalized. That's what's coming across from me. And the reason why I even started having this conversation in the beginning, mentioning that I went to Switzerland and the likes, I've seen how people who are wealthy live. And what you're saying, you're portraying it as if it's the norm. And it is the norm for the black child. But it's crazy and unfathomable for any other race to consider going through that, whereby they have issues with lodging, whereby they have, you know, issues with your discrimination to a certain extent based on the culture that you come from. So all of those things actually impact significantly the progress of a black child. But because we are so used to being pressed down, it's become the norm. So that's why when your last statement, which was just, it was mind-boggling, because it's the same statement that I would say in anyone else is, I did not die.
I agree with you. And when we say it was normal, it's because I was not exposed to anything else.
Yeah.
And I was not comparing it to anything else, you know. And when I got to university, and you realize, especially with how big Vets is, and you begin to make other friends, you realize that, no, man, there are people who are way less fortunate than me. And there's no way I can be complaining about this thing. Even though for me it might have been categorized as a struggle, from a bystander who comes from a different position can say, but this young man struggled. I was comfortable. I never went to sleep hungry, you know. I slept on a bed. I had blankets, mchan. You know, I had warm water in the morning, and I had jungle oats when I went to school every morning. Came back and I had lunch and supper. There's no way I can ever categorize that as a struggle. And there were people who were working very hard to make sure that that situation is kept intact. So it was a moment of be grateful and move on and focus on the what's coming ahead. And my eyes get more opened up when I get to university. And I think that's a life change for me. That's became a life change, you know, when you see other people. And then you realize that there are people who are way wealthier than you, you know.
You know, that's a beautiful segue, because the next part of the discussion is talking about university and university life.
Sure.
And I remember even with me, the very first time when I got there, it's crazy how we're told, okay, all of us get into class, lecture, get introduced to the lecturer, we get introduced to the lecture rooms, the libraries and the likes. So it seems that access is fair for everybody. But the circumstances of people vary significantly, to a point where there's, I mean, I'm not going to mention the individual, but there's someone that we both know who would even ask for money from us, because I know he has asked for money from me as well, for bread. But now this individual is extremely successful, pushes an i8 BMW, etc. But you would have never considered that. And I think for me, and you know, taking it to you, is that what was the impact when you got into varsity? I understand you saying that you saw people who were wealthy and people who were not wealthy, but you kind of find yourself in the middle. But did you ever get a significant culture shock, being that you had worked hard yourself, you had the passion to read, to study, as well as law, but you get into this whole new place called varsity, and then now you have to figure yourself out, your manhood, who you are as a progressively professional person in that space?
No, definitely. You know, getting there and being in an all-male residence and meeting all these people from all walks of life, from across the continent, you know, there's a bit of a no man's land for a very long time, you know, where you don't know where you belong. You know, you are with typical villagers who are from the serious farmlands, who cannot even articulate themselves as much as you do. But the irony of that is that my closest friend, whom I laid to rest earlier last month.
Condolences.
Thanks, man. Came from Paris. And when he tells his story of growing up in a farm in Kopis and how he even got, now you wonder, this man literally crawled out of a hole. You know, I had points of reference and so on. And I mean, I was driven to university, get there, somebody's with me, I'm with my cousin driving me around to go buy blankets, come back and what, and I was made comfortable. And you meet this person who only has one set of clothes, you know. But the impact of that on me is the level ground that we were on. Because when we get to class, we sit together. When we get to the exam hall, life doesn't show him leniency because he came from a less fortunate background. Life doesn't show me leniency because I have a reference point. I've got educated parents. I've got educated this and this. And in his own words, he would say, my friend, you know, Wits is a melting pot. So there was this amalgamation, this melting and coming together of everybody. And only a few would actually gel into that. And the only differences in people, you would just spot the accent, you know? You know, so this one is...
Oh, damn chan.
The likes of yourself.
Oh, no, comrade.
When we say no, see the likes of us, you can hear they are used to cheese. Oh, I'm and you realize, no, man, this Mrena, even when he speaks the way he does, you see, and I'm only hearing this Switzerland story for the first time today, you know, but I was wondering, man, this Mrena, no, man, it means to grow up in the serious babes.
No, Chief, order on you. I was in Alex, Chief.
No, Switzerland.
There's a street called Switzerland there.
Morning chocolate.
So, how did that make you feel when you, like, that friend of yours who came from Paris? Did you not feel some sense of imposter syndrome at any point in time? To saying that I'm more privileged than him, why me?
No, and I think that goes to how we actually become friends.
Okay.
You know? We're at the School of Law, then the West Campus, we live in the East. So there's this general walk together in the morning. We are late for a lecture. We get there, and he also likes to sit in front. I also like to sit in front. We eat together at the same race. So this person, by default, is always next to you, and by default, you become brothers. So, and it's only recently when I look back to say, wow, we were worlds apart. I never saw it, to be honest. I never saw it. Because he had a brilliant sense of humor. Academically, he was very gifted. He was always a pleasure to be around during assignment season, an excellent study partner. And, you know, so we always stood together, man. You know, and you know, campus life, especially when you live in res, you know, it's a very small circle. You walk to the library together, you walk to the dining hall together, you know. So there was never at that point where I had to judge him or weigh him, you know, because for a lack of a better word, I'd say he leveled up from his background. He never also took a garment of, I'm less fortunate. This one speaks better English, and I did speak better English. This one speaks better, and I never also said, hey, this one will embarrass me in front of forces if I hang around him too much. No, we just became partners like that, and the circle grew from the two of us, and there was just this general consensus where we welcomed each other and a sense of brotherhood. And again, there's still that futuristic element because we were aware that we are passing by. We are here to take something and we are leaving. You know, we started giving each other names like advocate, attorney, chief justice, judge so and so, because that's where our minds were.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yes.
That's really, really powerful. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's like manifestation. So you're manifesting it into real life, and here you go.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, when we come across each other, when I would see him on a normal morning, especially third year now, when you learn about law firms and stuff like that and so on, I'd call him by his surname, you know, and I'd come and say, hey, Mchan, how are you, man? Mkhize Incorporated, attorneys, notaries, conveyancers, and debt collectors. You see, Mchan?
Yeah.
And those things would be like our normal jokes and day-to-day things.
Yeah.
And you begin to play around with the jargons and so on. And when you are with people who are not studying the same thing with you, you enjoy that. And there was also this element of looking down on the humanities students to say, no, they are always just sitting there basking in the sun on the Great Hall. You know, we better off. You know, we're intellectuals. Yeah. We're studying law. So it's that melting pot element that I mentioned in the beginning. It kicks in because you melt even to your socio-economic standards. You melt to everything. Come school holidays, he goes to Paris, I go to Bushbuck Ridge. We'll meet again when schools open. And this goes on for that whole duration of university, which is a very long time. You know? So those differences, you only see them and you feel welcomed as well because you relate to people on a same footing. And for me, the notion of your background doesn't matter becomes personified in this one person, you know, where you come from and the constant, and don't feel sorry for yourself. He never did. So it's a big lesson for me. And he's my highlight of university, in fact, you know, to say it doesn't matter where you come from in life. I saw that really happening. I saw that really manifesting in him. I mean, just by the time of his passing, he had joined a successful firm in Bloemfontein, and you could hear from the speeches there and the condolences that he was very valued, you know. I came from a much more privileged background. I had gone to perhaps better schools and so on, but this Mrana would perform better than me academically, you know. So that's when you get to realize that, you know what, these things are really not dependent on many of the things that we think are dependent on, you know. You still have to appreciate the fact that black men, you are on your own. And what is your own? Own your ownness, you know, and individualize this whole thing of life and say, who is me? And that journey of finding yourself. And we are taught, you know, motivational speakers will say, no, man, you must go on a self-finding journey, blah, blah, blah. I think it finds you at some point, you know, because I don't think I can even show you the pathway to embark on to say, no, man, move in this direction, you'll find yourself. But once you are at that space where you are comfortable, it doesn't matter. Be it poverty, be it abuses and so on, all these societal ills, there's a point where you are able to germinate from them, you know, and become the best of you out of the hardships of life, you know. Hence, I say I don't really like to dwell much on struggle because struggles are personal, and sometimes we tell these struggles as a way of legitimizing our positions.
Wow. Okay.
As if to say that for you to tell a proper successful story, it must mention pain. It must mention a sleepless night. You know?
I hear you.
There are those that have never had that. You know? And it's as if when you tell a success story, it's compulsory that in that story, you must mention that segment where you had to walk 10 kilometers to school barefoot. And somebody who is successful and doesn't tell us that part, it's as if it's a textbook answer. And whereas it's not. He did not walk 10 Ks barefoot. There is somebody who did, and that's part of their story. You know? This one's struggle was different. And when I explain my struggle and say, mine was just maybe lodgement, I was uncomfortable not being home. Somebody will say, come on, man, don't be a wuss. Really, that was nothing, man. I swear to sleep in toilets. Therefore, part. Yes, as if there is this bridge between, as if poverty and struggle are the bridge way to success. And it's not. Success stands on its own and on its own merit.
Can I ask, do you think it's a black thing or is it just a general thing?
I think it's a black thing. I've never heard whites talk like that. Whites are just grateful for where they are in life, very grateful, and no matter how small they have. So with us, it sounds like there is this ongoing a luta continua. And of course, a luta continua needs to be context sensitive as well. A struggle in what? A struggle for what? And what are you doing in that struggle? Are you an active participant in this struggle? Or are we folding our arms and say, a luta continua? But if we say a luta continua and we're picking up arms of education, we're picking up arms of entrepreneurship, leadership and managerial skills, constantly equipping ourselves, then we are armed for this struggle. Then it can continue and victory can be guaranteed from that angle. And the emphatic point I want to make, Mchana, is that we should not make struggle and success cousins.
Jeez. Okay.
To say that because you came from a very humble beginnings, and you will see now with the Rugby World Cup, when we celebrate those heroes, it's very important for us to say they came from humble background. And humble background doesn't qualify them. They trained. There are people who are born in humble backgrounds and they will die there. There are people who are born privileged and they will continue in that privilege and success and wealth of their families. There are those who are born privileged and wealthy and will die poorer than their parents.
Jeez.
There are those who come from those unfortunate background and circumstances who will break that circle and become something better as individuals. I'll give you an example. In the townships, there used to be those chain stores, these general dealers and so on. And people will say, those ones, they were rich. Or when they see a Cressida passing, they say, no, my father was once rich. As if it's guaranteed that this thing will be passed on. And forgetting that man was also a black man on his own.
Yeah.
His children and offspring are black children on their own. They need to choose. Are they going to continue this legacy? Are they going to maybe take their own trajectory of life and define their own successes? What if they're not entrepreneurs? They're something else and they'll be successful at that. So when we walk around the townships and you see there used to be a shop here, usually we label those families as failures. No, babe, succession plan. No, Mchana. Yeah. And these are all individuals, even in a family. We must also appreciate our individual selves inside families. Inside whatever circles that we find ourselves in, we must appreciate that we are still individuals. And our struggles will be peculiar to us. And beyond the struggle, what are we trying to achieve? And your struggle is a part of your own personal journey of life. Because no matter, Mchana, I can tell you the most painful story, you will never feel that pain.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, 100%.
That's natural.
That's the truth.
The typical example I like to make is that if right now an accident happens here and you break your hand, I will never feel that pain. I can pick you up, give you the best medical treatment, and even sleep next to you and make sure that you're okay. At some point during the night, myself, I'll fall asleep. Isn't it? I'm not injured. So the person who will always feel your pains is yourself.
So essentially you're saying that we as black people need to stop glorifying struggle.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, we need to stop glorifying struggle, and let's cultivate things like work ethos. You know, when we go to high schools and encourage youngsters, let's not tell them about how they are better off because they have got computers. We passed matric and we didn't have. You know, it doesn't matter. People need to work hard. People need to dig deep into themselves and discover what they want to become, and become active participants in their own manifestations. You know, let's not use poverty and struggle as a fuel to success. It's not. It's not a nice thing. We have to divorce that relationship immediately. Success is success. Wealth is wealth, man. And good progressions in life should all be about that. And imagine if everybody, and when you tell a success story, you must always go back 10 years ago when this and this happened. And then the portion where you tell us about the success itself, it's the last 10% of your speech as a motivational speaker. You know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And they always do that. Yeah. Well, fast forward to 2020, I'm now the CEO. You know? Yeah. But now you were telling us about your finished shoes, Mcha.
Yeah.
And which is irrelevant to this thing. Wow. You know? Wow. So if we can push this thing of academia, I believe in academia, academic and school, that no, man, we can become better. Even at a ripe age. You know, let's not stop learning.
You know, there's two points that you mentioned, or two elements that you mentioned that I think that are so critical. And for me, I mean, look, my mind is really blown because it's, you know, sometimes it circulates around your mind, but you don't really engage it directly to then, unpack what it is that you are thinking about. And it's the first time, or one of the first times that I am, to saying that I thought, if a person is going to speak about their struggles and they're going to put it in such a way that they indicate how hard it was for them to achieve, then it's something to be proud of and glorify. But you're saying, but no, because everybody has a struggle one way or the other. And the point is not about dwelling on the struggle itself. Let's dwell on what you did. And let's also dwell on the manifestation that embodied what you did. And that takes me back to the story, the engagement that you said at varsity, where you're saying that you had this really close friend, but you didn't even recognize the fact that this person had this kind of struggle, because that was not the focus. The focus was this person was very smart, very hardworking, and those kind of values you are attracted to, because those are the values that you knew would take you ahead. Then on top of that, the fact that you kept on saying judge, advocate, etc., it's again calling that manifestation into saying we're going to work hard now and manifest it, even by mind, by speech, and look at us now. And that should be the story, not about the fact that you, as you indicated, I walked 10 kilometers barefoot. That doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And I'll tell you this, Mchana, ne? Hunger does not have areas. Hunger does not have areas. Wabona, we say in a day we have breakfast, lunch, and supper. Those are 3 meals a day. You don't eat for 3 days, you've missed 9 meals. But on the day we finally decide to give you food, we don't line 9 plates here like this and say you are catching up because you have not eaten for 3 days.
Wow.
It doesn't work like that. So we cannot be glorifying the fact that I haven't eaten for 3 days. No. Because halfway through that first plate, you're no longer hungry.
That's the reality.
That's the reality.
Wow.
And you don't need 8 more plates
to catch up.
Of food.
Yeah.
And even worse, it might be that because you have not eaten for 3 days, we don't even start you with a plate, Mchana. We'll start you with maheo.
Yeah.
Hey, so that
you can build a lining. Build a base.
Yes.
Yeah.
And from there's no backlog.
Yeah.
Success does not have backlog.
Jeez.
From the first meal, you are good to go. And I think also what delays us is the constant looking back.
Wow.
You know? And it becomes a heavy garment that you must continue to wear. And it also pushes us onto very controversial territories. The theories of giving back to society. We don't go back to our places. We don't what, and so on. It's those are very tricky things, Mchan. Because when we say we must go and sow back, we don't just go and sow blindly. Is the soil that we're sowing back on fertile enough to germinate and reproduce? Because if I move myself from a circle of people and I'm the only one that made it, from Abolov, I guess, it's not compulsory, honestly, for me to say, no, every weekend I must drive there and go by at 24. It's not necessary. Unless what I go back there for is really tangible. There is somebody who is really trying to come out and their hand is like this. And I'm going there to pull back them out. And in terms of entrepreneurship, like you mentioned earlier on, and all these people who make it, and some don't have that passion. And we cannot demonize them for that. Once you're out, upward, forward, onward. Some are visionary enough to say, and they've got that passion to say, let me go and sow back. Some have tried to sow back and it has become wasteful. Because you're trying to sow back to people who are not interested. But if a person shows an interest, there's no way that you can close this person outside. And the destiny of one man is not dependent upon another. Because I can die on my way to giving back. And if I don't arrive there, it doesn't mean that those people are doomed.
Yeah. And if you juxtapose this, what you're saying, and I'm completely in agreement with what I initially said, they're two opposite worlds. So it's almost that sense of entitlement to saying that as a black person, you need to assist me. But then the reality is but you need to assist yourself. Begin there.
Yes, that's where...
And assist yourself prior to you trying to get the networks without showing any value, without showing any dedicated work towards what you want to achieve.
That's where the Uzvalelanga Pandle syndrome comes from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And nobody's closing you outside, man. Awa muna Mandela khalatsule tronko.
Decades.
So, and we need to also embrace this freedom also in that light.
Okay.
This freedom. You understand? We are free to dream. Yeah. We are free to become. We are free to manifest. We are free to reach beyond. We are free to put struggles behind us and say, this is where we're going in life. So, if you are raising yourself and somebody closes your door, no man can close the destiny of another. There's no human being that can do that.
You're preaching now.
Yeah.
Right. Pastor Advocate, go ahead.
There is no man that has got the keys to another man's destiny.
Wow. We
can assist each other as human beings. Yeah. And remember, we're both mortals here. Yeah. Because tomorrow I will blame my shortcomings on you. And I can't do that. You can't blame another person for your shortcomings in life. Yeah. And this is a bit controversial because there are those who even blame absent fathers, absent this, absent that. And that's assuming a perfect world that every child on earth is parented. And it's not true. There are orphans who have made it in life. That's now the element that we can take from struggles in understanding our world better, but not taking the struggle as a fuel for the future, but as a direction to say, no, there's an orphan that made it. There's a rape victim that survived. There's a girl that fell pregnant twice in her teenagehood, but put that besides her and still went on to university and made it. So we rid ourselves of this perfect world that we imagine and we personalize. So we take lessons from this, and we mold ourselves in line with my own vision, because I cannot live from a borrowed perspective. Today I want to live Oz's story.
And that's,
tomorrow is this one story.
That's powerful. You can't live on borrowed perspectives.
No.
Wow. Yeah.
You cannot dress yourself in borrowed robes.
Yo.
Embrace your own garment.
Hey! Okay, right.
Why you want to
No, I hear it. I hear it.
So these stories, I'm not saying, and I don't want to be misunderstood to saying no, people's struggles are not important. What do we take from them? And what we should take from them is probably one sentence. The fact that no, it is possible for a farm boy to own a farm. It is possible for an orphan to run a hospice and an orphanage. It is possible for somebody who comes from an illiterate background of a family to attain PhD. We take it, and it ends right there, and then we start. Let's start now. What happened? How did you become what you became? No, I went to school. No, man. This was my study hours. This was my mindset. This was my psychology around this thing. These are my personal philosophies of life. Then we embrace this person. Not all the time when we meet you, we say, hey, Mchana, that man, if and it's common. When you see a nice car passing, hey, if you see where he comes from, at his house they had nothing growing up. So what?
So what?
They had nothing. And his mother died in that shack. She didn't even get to see these things. Oh, come on. Why are we? And we continue imposing these things on people. Look, I was making that example about our rugby players earlier on. On national news, it's very, very important to mention that, our captain often nights he had to go to sleep hungry. Did that make him a world champion? Rugby champion? No. He was on that field. He adhered to what his coaches told him to do.
Bottom line.
Whether
you're well fed or not fed, at the end of the day, is can you follow the instructions?
And
if you follow the instructions, you would become a world champion.
Are you teachable in this path of life that you choose? And it starts by choosing a path of life. And are you willing to comply? Are you willing to follow whatever lessons that will come with this journey? And we put the past where it belongs and we lock it up there. And we create a museum for these things. And we move on in our own trajectory of success in whatever way we choose to go in life. In the absence of constantly quoting our struggles, it is not necessary.
On that note, it's about that time. You said a mouthful, but very valuable things. I mean, I've learned something as well in this conversation. Is there any parting shots before we end?
I think, what, in life, let's just, let's be true to ourselves and be grateful. There's a time in life where you have to accept that there's no other better place in life you should be besides where you are right now, and there is aspirations and dreams and so on. But sometimes we are so caught up in what we desire and forget where we are right now. And once we accept where we are right now, it's a proper springboard for the future. So let's get our feet on the ground and appreciate that, we are here. I'm not comfortable with where I am. I want to go there. And we take it from there.
All right. Thank you very much. Massive thank you for, again, honoring this invite, as well as sharing your pastorian. I can see a vision there. Pastor advocate, I sense it. Next thing you're going to be one of those public speakers, motivational speakers.
China, I must arrange a tent and 50 chairs.
No, my brother, thank you for coming through.
No, you're welcome.
All right, and that's what's up. And that's our Okay podcast. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on the various social media platforms. And beautiful conversation, and I hope that you took something out of it. Shots. No, my leader.
John.
I know your key, Chief. Hey, this man is key, He's paramount, he's motivational, this man. No, Chief, you're clear on the issues.
No, Mchana, this was fun.
No, thank you for coming.
No, this was fun.